Let's get it. This is Life's Essential Ingredients with Jeff and a Mike, where we hope to inform, inspire, and transform lives, one essential ingredient at a time. Welcome to the show. We back, baby. We got the A team. Ted already dropping some knowledge on us before we even get on to the show. So listeners, thank you again for tuning in. And I got to pinch myself every time. But somehow, some way, Pasho doesn't even know these numbers, but we've been listened to now in 102 countries, which is crazy, 935 cities. So I just want to say thanks for tuning in and for sharing Life's Essential Ingredients with some friends and family. And here we go again. So we are season 5, episode 13. If you are new, this podcast is really part of our nonprofit. The nonprofit is called C4 Leaders. And we use the pizza making process to create space for our companions to be seen, heard, and loved. We also write children's books. And then we use the most amazing handmade, hand-tossed sourdough pizza to bring out the best in each other. So if you're interested in checking us out in that space, go to pizzadays with a Y, s.org. So here we go. Season 5, episode 13. We have Ted Santos coming from New Jersey. Best place you can find Ted. He's all over the place, but just go to turnaroundip.com. Turnaround IP, and the IP stands for Investment Partners. So turnaroundip.com. About our guest, who is Ted Santos? He is a leadership disruptor who turns chaos into breakthroughs. Ted is not your typical business strategist. He challenges the status quo through training and developing CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs to create problems instead of solving them. I just love that already. This strategy ignites the greatness in Ted's clients that in return provides the fuel for transformative and breakthrough growth. Ted's expertise extends beyond boardrooms. Ted's groundbreaking book, Here's Why You Can't Find Love, reveals how personal struggles like broken relationships cost U.S. businesses over $300 billion annually, and provides tools for leaders to fix the hidden leaks that sabotage success. Ted doesn't just talk about breakthroughs, he creates them, whether it's scaling during rapid growth, transforming culture, or leading through chaos. Ted brings game-changing insights that resonate deeply with high achievers looking to think bigger, act bolder, and dominate their industries. Thanks for sharing your many gifts with people all over the world, for continuing to push yourself in the service of others, and for being our guest on Life's Essential Ingredients. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you very much for inviting me. And that was quite an introduction. So it sounds like I'm going to have a lot to live up to. So thank you.
I love it. It is one of my favorite. It's funny, this comes up every third or fourth show that we record, that the guests kind of gets to sit back and just listen to their life's work. And it is our honor to be able to put a little bit of time to just put some stuff together and put that out there, and for you to reflect and hear it from people that don't know you, but honor the greatness in you and in all the work that you've done. So yeah, thank you so much for all that you've done to help so many people. But as you know, we talked off air, we start with the thought of the day, and I don't know why I feel a little bit of pressure today, but I think we're going to be all right, Pashito. And here it is. It's from R.D. Laing, and it goes like this: the range of what we think and do is limited by what we fail to notice. And because we fail to notice that we fail to notice, there is little we can do to change until we notice how failing to notice shapes our thoughts and deeds. Why would I pick that one for you?
Actually, it's a good one. Very good. And so, you hear people talk about there are things that you know, right? And so we could all say we know simple mathematics, we know how to speak English. And then there are things that you don't know, and you don't know them. I'm sorry, there are things you don't know and you don't know them. Like, I don't know, do you speak Mandarin?
No.
Right. But and neither do I. So we know we don't speak Mandarin, except if we wanted to learn it, there are resources out there to learn Mandarin. And then there are these things that we don't even know we don't know, and we don't even know we don't know them. So we failed to notice them because we don't even know that we don't know them, and there's not much we can do about them. And in addition, I would say our education system doesn't really give us many tools or a roadmap on how to uncover or discover those things which we don't know. And I would say that is where breakthroughs are found in the domain of things you didn't know you didn't know.
Mm.
So it's difficult to notice that which you don't know. So your quote is really good for that. And not only does that apply to business and breakthroughs, it implies on the micro level to the individual, and it applies to also the intimate relationships that people have. Like why there are things that you do that sabotage the relationship, and very much about mindset. So transforming mindset, uncovering blind spots. What are the mental barriers you have, and you don't even know you don't know them. And sometimes the very things that could be seen as your superpower are the very things that derail you,
Mm,
and you just don't know it.
mm, man, I'm already in Ted. Just so you know, Mike and I started this show just to help one or two people, and it's always been Mike and I. So when my head is down, I'm taking notes. Uh,
Okay.
don't think that I'm on my phone or just you know taking all kind of notes. Uh, and I want to jump in right out of the gate. Normally we don't start this way, but it jumped out at me. I like how you are challenging the education system
Mm.
that that we need to do a better job to help students discover, what they don't know. Uh, what tips, if you were the principal of your local, say, elementary school, junior high, or high school, pick whichever one you want to work at. Um, but if you were in charge there, what would you do to disrupt and help create breakthroughs for that student slash, I'll put parent population?
So first, I'd teach them how to learn,
Mm,
because what we do is we read a book and then tell you what we read based on our memory. And if we remembered well, we are well rewarded, but it doesn't say that we learned anything. We just memorized what we read. So teaching people how to learn is very different. Perhaps when we are infants and we have to learn a new language or learn to do something, we have nothing to compare it to, and we actually have to learn. Right? Learning to walk as an infant is so complex. In some ways, we're almost not learning to walk. We have to invent how to walk because our brain doesn't have a capacity for walking. And in fact, I know a guy, his daughter's 27. She was always athletic through high school, uh, went off to college, had a car accident, severe head trauma, and now she cannot walk. This woman who is healthy, athletic, can't walk. She actually has to invent walking because her brain, the neural pathways, the ones that told her body how to walk, the ties were severed. So now she has no way, even though she knows how to walk intellectually, there's no way for her body to walk because the neural pathways are chopped off, they're severed. So she now has to invent walking.
mm,
So teaching children with that thought, teaching children there's a distinction between thinking and having thoughts. And a lot of people think that that's just a matter of semantics. So having thoughts are the things that you know, you've seen, you've read, you know about it already. Thinking is thinking that which is unthought. And that creates a lot of confusion. So we are educated to give the right answer. And if we don't know it, we find someone who can give us the answer. To actually think means you have to think it through yourself, and you'll have to go through some confusion and possibly even chaos. So, how do you navigate yourself through that uncertainty and chaos without getting derailed.
Man.
So this would be essential for children. So the children to act, because this is where innovation happens. So, most breakthrough initiatives in corporations are they fail. And they often fail because of the amount of uncertainty, the chaos, and we're not really uh, tooled. We don't have the tools for navigating that kind of uncertainty that comes with breakthrough initiatives. Because if you're going into the domain of things that you didn't know, then how will you know what to do?
Mm.
You'll be like the Wright brothers, um, and that one didn't work. That one didn't work. Or Thomas Edison, and over 10,000 times to find ways that the light bulb didn't work, and he may be, you figure at that time, someone watching him saying, "Hey, Tom, you tried 100 times and it didn't work. What are you doing?" Tom, it's been 1,000. Like, dude, what are you doing? Like, give it up, man. It's never gonna work 1,000 times. Like, now you're at 5,000. Man, we're going to put you in a straitjacket. This is just a waste of your time. You're a bright guy. You have such a great future, and you're wasting your time 5,000 times, and it didn't work. And he wasn't done yet.
I love everything that you're sharing. And I want to go back one step. If I can put my thoughts together, I totally agree with everything. And in our nonprofit, we do a lot of work in the educational space. So we're pretty
Mm.
familiar with what's going on. I was a high school, college, professional basketball coach for like 25 years. Mike is a current
Wow.
high school basketball coach. I don't know if you're aware. We played, not that it matters. We played at University of San Francisco. That
Okay.
we met. We've been best friends since we were 18. We're a little bit older than that now, not too, but a little bit older than that. And so and that's why I love, we got to teach in Mike's case now, because I'm not currently coaching student athletes, how to learn. But so much I wrote down, I love the way you said innovation happens, but I wrote down underneath that, change the culture, and I think being willing, creating a culture that allows students to make a mistake and to learn what they don't know so they can innovate and know for themselves is got to be a huge part of the remake or reimagining our educational system. And I guess my question, I know you do a lot of work on the business side, I'm guessing, with your companies and helping transform culture that might not have their employees running towards failure. So then they
Right.
learn and grow and have these transformative breakthroughs that you're talking about. But how would you suggest, and I'll keep it open ended, you can take whichever space you want to take, but how would you suggest for a listener that might be running a business of just saying, man, my employees, I've created this culture by being too tough. And I've done it, unfortunately,
Mm.
myself as a coach early on, of jacking up my players because they're making mistakes, only to realize years later, well, I'm the one that's making them make mistakes because they're playing with fear. And you cannot ever be your true self and innovate and get creative if that's your leadership style. And that's hard for me to admit that, but that's just the truth. I had to go through that growth. But what tips would you have, to get back to the question of transforming culture and making it one where, I don't want to use the word reward, but I'll use that, but where, failing is rewarded because you're one step closer towards figuring out how to make it work.
Yeah, that's a great question. uh, so one thing that I've seen really work and developing people to be more innovative and develop a sense of prowess so that they can take even greater risks is you ask them to do things they don't know how to do. And you already, I hate to say it this way, but you already know they are going to fail at it. or there's a good chance they don't know what they are doing. You need to be okay with that. And you also need to be okay with not telling them how to do it, even if you know the answer.
Yeah, and that is hard, I'm sure, as a leader to not want to fill that space or the air,
Right, the air, the silence, right?
and definitely as a facilitator for, the nonprofit stuff, that's always like the good stuff. You just got to let it marinate, and let people think the unthinkable thoughts that will
Mm.
happen, when you allow that to just let it just be and settle. Because I wholeheartedly believe that everybody has this greatness inside them that is wanting to come out, but can we help them create the space and give them the space to do so? But yeah, hey, we're off to a good start, but I got a little bit carried away here. We always start with just kind of, I want the listeners just to get to know you a little bit, and you can take it any which way you want this question, but what was life like growing up?
um, yeah, you could say life was good for me. You would say that. Parents started me out in private schools right from kindergarten, so my parents had this vision for their children, and education was important. And they wanted to have their children in an environment that was safe, and the backyard, and we could run around and have a good time. So yeah, then we moved to a bigger place with a huge swimming pool in the backyard. So with wooded areas, part of our property, and then behind the house, and thousands of acres of farmland, cornfields. So it was my parents provided a space for us to be either four children. I'm the oldest of four. So it's first myself, then my brother and two sisters. So my brother and I were allowed to be boys. When they say boys will be boys, we were, we got dirty, we were rugged, we had really close cousins, and we played games until someone was hurt and no one stopped us. And my father loved wrestling with his two sons. So my father had in his I saw his high school yearbook, his senior year, they said patience of a spider weaving a web.
Mm.
And so so education was important. We were, I was born with weights in the house, so my brother and I were both great athletes. We broke records in the sports that we did, and so there was a certain mindset that was there. And you could say my father created this world where uh, we knew that there were possibilities beyond what most people thought was possible.
Of the Just writing that one down. Yeah, where was that? You said out in the country a little bit. Was that
There's a town called Marlboro, like the cigarettes, Marlboro, New Jersey.
okay?
Yes.
Nice.
So,
What was your sport that you enjoyed playing the most?
so you guys play basketball, so you will understand. So my most favorite sport was track. I was a long jumper.
Uh,
But to become a better long jumper, I developed myself to at 5'6", 143. I was dunking basketballs. So imagine some guy 5'6". You're like, why is this guy out here with us? And you're going up for a rebound, and he's taking the ball out your hand right off the rim. So I never played, organized basketball. I wanted a higher vertical leap. So I had a 50-inch vertical leap because I wanted to be a long jumper. But in football, I was the starting defensive nose guard. So I was a defensive lineman at 5'6", 143.
Wow, you were an incredible athlete. Holy cow. That's amazing, all of that.
Thank you.
That's interesting. Your football coach. I would have put you at safety or something like that. But he probably said, "Let's just get you to the ball because you're too fast and too strong and just too quick. And there's no way any lineman's going to block you. You're going to off the ball so fast, be in the backfield before the guy even hands the ball off."
Yeah, and well, as a running back, that was where I started. You could say that was my, my trade, my real profession was running back. I would hit the hole faster than the quarterback could get there. So he didn't play me. I sat on the bench, and one game I watched the running back coach arguing with the head coach and saying, "Why don't you have Santos in the game? This is unfair. He needs to," because I was the best running back. I was the fastest. I was perhaps the hardest hitting guy on the team, and we didn't have small guys. And so I came up with a solution, and I laid in bed and said, "How do I solve this permanently and make sure I'm not on the bench?" So solution is to play nose guard. So I went into practice, and the first string offense was they were running plays, and whoever was playing nose guard on defense, I said, "Hey man, take a break," and I proceeded to destroy the center and everything. And at the end of practice, the coach said, "Do you want to play nose guard?" And I said, "Yeah."
Oh, I love it. I love it. Uh, Not to compare you, and then we're going to move on, but not, I just think of Rudy, you know,
Oh
the
yeah,
movie, just you just getting out there and getting after it, regardless of how big anybody was, you were just going to beat them, just because you had the desire and the athletic ability to do so.
yep,
Um,
yep. So there was a mindset that I developed that gave me an advantage uh, over most people, and I that mindset started developing at the age of 6, and it was all based on one event that happened.
hmm. All right, well, we got to get into that. What was that?
So my birthday is January 5th, so this happened literally on January 1st. So I was 6 years old, days away from being 7, and I literally watched my mother run with 2 broken legs, and I didn't know that. She took us, it was only 3 children at the time, took us to her mother's house for New Year's Eve, coming home, drops her brother and his wife off, and then heads home. So the children are now in the front seat instead of the back. And 100 yards from home, the car is wrapped around a tree. She, I guess, fell asleep, got comfortable. And I look over at my siblings. We're all cut up, bloody. And I look over at my mother. She's not there. I'm just tall enough to look over the dashboard, and I watch her run home. And then within no time, my father and his cousin come and carry us to the hospital. And at the hospital is where I learned she had 2 broken legs and a broken arm. And I thought I saw her run. She didn't limp. She didn't crawl. She ran. And in my 6 years of life on planet Earth, I had seen my mother run, and I knew she just ran. So I'm thinking human beings have something and we don't know how to pull it out of us. And so from that time, I I did everything I could to pull that out of me. And that's why I really ended up dunking basketballs and playing nose guard, because my training was training to run with broken legs. I was training to do that which is impossible. And I wasn't trying to do impossible, but I was after this thing in humans, and I wanted to be able to intentionally pull it out. So the interesting thing is it's transferable when you're even running businesses, even in your intimate relationships. It just creates a mindset.
I guess we got to get into that then real quick. I know you consult, all over the world with your clients. How do you help? So I'm sure there's a listener saying, "Man, I would love to develop my mindset to be able to take action towards, what I want to do." What tip or tips or first step would you suggest they take for learning how to develop their mindset to dominate, in your words.
Well, with my clients, the first thing that I do is help them uncover blind spots and uncover the things they didn't know about themselves and what derails them. So it's the difficult thing about doing this by yourself in a room. It's like a brain surgeon doing brain surgery on himself. So it's much better done with a guide, someone who's going to take you on this journey of transformation, someone who has a good roadmap, and each person's roadmap will look different. And perhaps it's better if I give you an example. I had a client who was at the time early 60, I think he was 62 years old. And he originally was a CPA, worked for the largest CPA firm in the country, and decided to make a career change. And he went into the mortgage business, and things were going okay. And then he hit a slump and couldn't get out of it. So he hired me, and he couldn't, he told me that every day he went to work waiting to be fired. He just knew today when I get to work, they're going to say, hey, come into my office, go home, and don't come back. So that's the way he went to work every day. I'll tell you the end of the story. How it ended is that in his first 3 months of working with me, he doubled his productivity. And then in the next 3 months, he doubled that. So if he started with 2, after 3 months, he had 4. And after 6 months, he had 8. He was producing 8. And he was when he was called into the office, they called him in to say, what do you need? We will give you whatever you need to support your success. And he had 3 of his competitors courting him, and he ultimately took a job with a competitor. So the he's a great example of a superpower becoming your kryptonite. So what we discovered was that he could get meetings with people he called heavy hitters, and they would leave the table not doing business with him. They liked him. They'd go have a beer with him anytime because he was a likable guy. This was the guy who was the master at breaking the ice. He could crack a joke. He could make everyone comfortable, let your guards down. We want to do business with you. And then he'd make another joke and another joke and another joke, talk a little business and another joke. And everyone likes him, but this is not business. And he was great at breaking the ice, but he couldn't stop. It was almost like an addiction. He couldn't stop breaking the ice. So what we discovered that he didn't know was when he was 13, he was in an automobile with a few other guys who were like 17, 18. And someone said, what's this guy? He's in a backseat. What's this guy doing with us? Like, he's 13. This little guy, why is he with us? So he made a joke. Everyone laughed. They put their arm around him and said, oh, you're cool. You belong with us. So that's how he survived not belonging. So he never stopped doing that because it worked. And that's what happens with people. We do something and it works and it becomes our only gear. And it's not appropriate for everything. So with him, I never said stop being the icebreaker. But just get that's you going back to being 13, and the 13-year-old is running your life. So you're going to choose, do I want to be 13, or do I want to be this commitment to close a deal with these heavy hitters? So we have to also work on strategies for questions to ask and how to engage people so that he can understand their needs and then close the deal.
Man, that's a powerful story. And love that you were able to help him, work through that and to tap into, I would say that ingredient, and it is interesting in our space of working with people. We do some team building stuff, but then part of that is we actually make pizzas, where get up to the back of the truck and they're making their pizza and they're thinking about, hey, what are those ingredients that have been essential in their life?
Right.
And if this particular guy would have been up there, humor would have been that ingredient. And then
Right.
hopefully people can take a step back and say, hey, what is it that I don't know, that I'm not seeing anymore? And is that humor still serving me in the same way that it was back when I was 13?
Right.
And I think when you can help people get into that space, transformation happens. And obviously, your example of your guy doubling his sales, which is not easy to do, and then all these other resources coming in, and I'm sure you gave him his blueprint for life, and he was off and running with those tools that you allowed him to tap into. Which kind of leads into the next question. Is change, and we'll use this same guy just to segue, and then you can take it any which way you want. Change is difficult for most people, and historically, probably the only person that really likes change is a baby with a wet diaper. you know Other than that, people are like, all right, what am I gonna have to give up? What am I losing? What, instead of using it as an asset, as an opportunity to learn and grow and share. How do you or what tips would you give for helping people just deal with change and kind of running towards change instead of being fearful of it?
Well, I would suggest we do this as a as a dynamic conversation between you and I, because I need to understand something first. How do you know change is hard?
Yeah, for me, let's get Pasho in there. Pasho, doing all the talking. You jump in and let's do this one live with my Pasho.
Well,
Wait.
before he jumps in, what you said change is hard. So I want to understand why you say change is hard. Like, how do you know change is hard?
Well, because you've experienced it, through a bunch of different life examples. We'll
That
say,
doesn't help. That doesn't help me. I want to know specifically how you know change is hard.
uh, for me, I'll say change is hard. I'm in retirement now, and most people would be like, "Oh man, I wish I was, you know, retired like Jeff." Um, and yeah, I had a choice in retiring, but not all the way. It was suggested, from my doctor, like, "Hey, it's a long old story, but my health isn't the best." And
Okay.
so for me, that change has been really hard because I'd rather be working every day as a nurse and be with my students. I was teaching nursing and be in that space. And this is not bad space. I'm with you and I'm with my Pasho, and this is great getting to do this nonprofit work. But yeah, I would still much rather be, in the hospital working with students and coaching them up to reach and achieve their dreams.
Okay. So what I heard you say is that uh, your doctor said, based on for health reasons, that it's be wise that you no longer are in the workforce and you retire, and so now you created this whole new opportunity where you get to speak like with people like myself and Boogie Mike, and I'm still just baffled. I'm really perplexed because I'm waiting for the hard part. I asked you why is change hard, and you haven't answered the question. You told me about what your doctor said and what your career and what you'd rather be doing teaching, but I'm waiting for you to specifically tell me, how do you know change is hard?
That's a good question. I think my Pasha would like to.
Hey, Ted hit it nail on the head. Yeah.
Well,
Ted cut right to the chase. Let's go, Pasho.
and I like it, but I actually love change. So that's why it's hard for me to answer this, because I was trying to be like a little bit of a devil's advocate. You talk to my wife, she gets sick of me of always wanting to change things and do things. So yeah, so
So why'd you say change is hard?
well, just because I was trying to put it out there as most people, I think change is difficult for them. They have their routines. They like doing things a certain way, and then all of a sudden things are different, and so we're disrupting their routine, disrupting their pattern, and a lot of times that comes at some sort of expense. I'll put clarity to that. So my wife is also a nurse. She
Mm,
works in a hospital up in Sacramento. in a very intense floor, and they are constantly changing policy and procedure. So one week you're doing things this way, next month you're doing things a whole different way, which is, I mean, I'm going to contradict myself, which is not bad because nursing is about evidence-based practice. So obviously there's research that comes out that says, hey, you know what? We were doing it this way, but there's actually a better way to do it. But it still doesn't make it easy to digest for someone who's working in that space and dealing with life and death and having to constantly deal with all these changes that happen. So from that standpoint, yeah, change is a little bit difficult.
Because you learn something, because you do something different.
Just because it comes at an expense of time, challenging yourself. Some people get stuck in, hey, it's this is a way that we've always done it. Yeah, I'm definitely not one of those people, but been in those settings of, hey, no, this is the way that it's always been done. Yeah, I'm not going to exactly follow the new way of doing it. I've been doing this for 40 years now, and yeah, it's this is a great way to do it.
All right, Mike, you're gonna have to help me because I'm still not hearing the hard part. So
All right, let me
Ted,
we're gonna move on because
listen, Ted, you got him sweating. You've got him sweating right now,
no,
Ted.
no, no, but this is an extremely important conversation. See, when you asked the question, I said the best way to answer it is to have a dynamic conversation. And technically, we are answering the question.
Yeah, but see,
Yeah.
I'm not really because I love change.
I understand, but this is for your audience, right? So
Yeah,
your audience were able to see this live, up close and personal. That um, I'm going to say it the abstract way first. Actions are correlated with the conversations you are. So if you say change is hard, then you're going to take actions to support exactly what you said. So no one's ever proved that change is hard. They just really inherited that. And no one ever noticed that it was just inherited. We go back to your original quote, like you don't even notice that you notice. You didn't notice that you didn't notice. No one ever questioned, is change hard? They just embraced it because someone said it. Well, let me tell you something else. That's a fact that this is, I don't know if we want everyone to hear this, but the earth is the center of the universe. And all the planets, including the sun, go around the earth. And that's just the way it is, buddy.
uh,
And don't you dare question it. Who are you, Copernicus?
no.
You said what? Yeah, that's heresy. This is a problem. Get rid of this guy. To the guillotine. And you know what else? The mile cannot be run in under 4 minutes because it's humanly impossible. Those are all conversations. And that's it. I mean, I'm not trying to be airy fairy, a Nike just do it commercial, but people say something and then their actions are correlated with that. I can't do that. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not a leader.
And Ted, let's not forget the 5'6" person cannot dunk, right?
Actually, I read a book uh, that said if you're 5'7", don't ever think you're going to win a dunking contest in the NBA. And then the new edition had to correct that and say, I think the guy's name was Spuds or something.
Bud Webb, yeah.
Yeah, he won the dunking contest at 5'7". So he's got an inch on me. Apparently that inch makes a big difference, right? But yes, it was like, be realistic. We know what reality is. And if you go back, let's say 120 years ago, 125, cars couldn't go faster than 40 miles an hour. Do you guys know why? They said, this is all that happened. They said if a woman travels at speeds greater than 40 miles an hour, her uterus will explode.
Mm.
And so the actions that were correlated with that conversation created cars that had a top speed of 40 miles an hour. See, people don't realize how much power they have in what they say. So if we take your pizza analogy, right? So you can spend your life looking for the perfect pizza with all the right toppings, or you can invent the pizza with the toppings that you create. So, and I'll take that more specifically when people say, I'm looking for my purpose. Why haven't you invented your purpose in life? So you can spend your life looking for a purpose, or you can say what your purpose is and have that shape how you prepare yourself and develop yourself and be able to execute on that. Conversation is so powerful. We underestimate. And within conversation, there's a language. So, you guys play basketball. There are guys who say, I hope I make the team. I want to make the team. I'm going to start and I'm going to break records. Those are four different conversations. And they require four different types of training. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, Jeff. So,
I,
um,
I loved it. I loved it. And yeah, you're challenging me. And I definitely got where you are going. And it kind of, to me, and thinking about everything, it's the mindset that you bring
right.
into change, and then making sure you're taking, hopefully, get the mindset that's going to allow you to embrace it, and then to take action to correlate the words that you're telling yourself with this change, to go out and attack, that change, and to innovate, create, and overcome whatever it is that's going on. But I know Pasho had something that he wanted to share from something that you had. Then I got some other questions for you real quick.
Well, just I'll make this human beings in 7 years, every cell in your body changes. So doesn't that sound like a being that's designed to deal with change?
For sure. For sure.
So Ted, your clients that have like my Pasho don't like change, what's like instead of just resisting the change, what is like the first thought or the first question they should ask themselves when confronted with change?
Well, think about the presuppositions that you're having. So think about what Jeff said, change is hard. So think about what you're saying to yourself. Are you saying change is hard? How do you know change is hard? Where did you get that? Is it a fact of life? People live like it's a fact. So is change hard? Okay. And where did I inherit that? And is this a fact of life? Do I have to be stuck with what I was given? Like, I can assume that Jeff may speak Spanish. So if I would have started this out and said, "Ochim preat na paz na komica," would you guys have understood me?
Not me.
Yeah. I didn't think you spoke Russian. So, yes, a pleasure to meet you. But you were not given Russian. And that doesn't make there's nothing wrong with you that you don't speak Russian. If I would have said mucho gusto, then Jeff would have been like, oh, yeah, right?
Sí, claro que sí, también.
Sí. Ou se eu quero falar contigo em outro idioma, talvez você pode entender também.
Got me.
Oh, that's Portuguese. So it's close enough. But you were not given Portuguese, you were not given Russian. And so you have what you were given. And if you're given that change is hard, you don't have to be stuck with it. Just like you don't have to be stuck with English. If you want to learn Russian or Mandarin or Hmong, that's the language I'm thinking, Hmong from Lao. If you want to speak those languages, you can learn them. You don't have to be stuck with English only. So you don't have to be stuck with change is hard. I'm not made for leadership. I don't have that kind of personality. You don't have to be stuck with any of those things. And this is one reason why I don't do personality assessments because what you do is you give people a crutch to say, well, I'm this type, I'm the ENIF, and I'm, the director, and I can't do this, and I could never. People will lean on that and say, look, I have proof that I could never be that kind of person. But when you create the kind of commitments, so what are the commitments you have for your people? What do you stand for?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan either of the for the exact reason of personality kind of assessments. Yeah, we won't get into all that stuff, but I do want to, and you've role modeled it amazingly. I know my Pasha is really enjoying this and seeing the best possible way. Um, but you created the disruptive leadership model.
Right.
Let's talk about that. And yeah, let's just talk about it.
So what I've seen, so I've seen people say disruptive leadership is about solving problems or creating solutions. And I didn't create it for that. I literally coined this term back in 2007, and it didn't exist anywhere in the universe. And I created it because when I spoke to you about my mother running with broken legs, that was a disruption. In the normal course of things, my mother wouldn't have had two broken legs and ran 100 yards. Just wouldn't have happened. But there was a big enough problem. So disruptive leadership is about intentionally creating problems for the organization to solve. So when you create a big enough problem, like the founding fathers say we're going to declare independence from Great Britain. Not only did they declare it, did they say that? Did they create a conversation about independence? They put their butts on the line. So when you get like a JFK that says we'll send a man to the moon and make sure we have the resources to get there, he not only says it by putting his butt on the line, he puts money where his mouth is to make sure it can be done. So I saw that when the problem is big enough, it pulls something out of people to be more than they would ordinarily be. My so at 6, watching my mother run with broken legs, you could say that shaped my life forever. At 21, I lose both parents in a day, and I'm the oldest of four. And this is a big enough problem to do things that you just never thought you would have to do. So I learned an enormous amount about leadership. Already being the oldest put me in a position where my siblings would trust me, but I delegated to them, I coached them up, I navigated us in the face of extreme chaos, and all of those were transferable to my professional life. When I was running companies that were in a transition, they were growing faster than they could manage. And I remember having a very specific conversation running a transportation company as a chief operating officer, and we were in chaos. And I remember stepping aside from everyone and saying, I've seen more chaos than this when my parents died, and I worked through it. So I'm going to work through this. It just creates a certain mindset that you're not clouded with things are so awful, I don't know what to do, and I don't have the answers. Um, During my parents' death, I learned to ask questions. So when I wanted my sisters, when I wanted to coach them up, the way I did it is I asked them to do things they didn't know how to do, and they would fail. I would never tell them how to do it. They would go do it, they would fail, and they would come back and give me a report on the failure. And I would ask some more questions, and they'd go do it and they'd fail. Eventually, you have something called neuroplasticity where you grow completely new neural pathways, and that helps you see the world from new perspectives and have better problem solving skills. So by me asking them questions instead of telling them what to do, it required them. It's like the future called them forward. Like it was almost like the future was pulling them towards it and providing this new space a way to think about things that they normally wouldn't. And they had, you could say, I created a culture where failing was okay. I mean, it wasn't that I encouraged it, I somewhat imposed it. I asked them to do things they would, at which that I knew there would be failure, but I needed them to work it out on their own so that I could give them more and more things and they would be better at solving it.
Hmm. I, and this could be like way off the mark. Um, but let's take your disruptive model and let's take it to a business whose employees are just not engaged anymore for one reason or another. Would you take your same strategy, and have them try and solve problems? I mean, it's a big problem all over in so many different industries now, is the employees being engaged in what they're doing. How would you help a business that says, hey, I just got to get the employees to engage in the work that's here?
So, um, uh, oftentimes, uh, people are disengaged not over what's actually happening. They're disengaged over a story they've made up in their head about leadership, about customers, about the culture. And so you asked me before if I were working with a CEO, what would be the first thing? And I said I said to be able to see their blind spots, to see the things they don't know about themselves, about the industry, but it's also to unlearn those things that derailed them. So with the guy who was in the mortgage industry, he had to unlearn the fact that he was an icebreaker and that was his only gear. Very smart guy, CPA, but he had to be a different person in the mortgage industry. So um, I'll give you an example. I worked with this company, and I know one of the women was telling us how she was pumping gas in a car one day, and she wasn't paying attention. And when she squeezed the pump, the gas squirted and it was all over her. She went into a complete panic and she said, I'm going to die. I have to go home. I'm about to die. She was in panic. Like, it's a good thing she didn't have a bad heart. She may have had a heart attack because she was so terrified that she was about to die. And in her mind, it was real. I have gasoline on me and I'm going to die. And someone's going to come up with a cigarette and I'm going to go up in flames. And that's just a story she made up in her head. So what actually happened is she pulled the pump, the gas backfired, squirted on her, and she had gasoline on her. She smelled like gasoline. That's how she smelled. You want to go home and change your clothes, take a shower because you don't want to smell like, gasoline. I understand. But the other part that she added, I was going to die. That's the story she made up in her head. So when people start to see the stories that they're making up in their head and they can unlearn that, they now have a choice, like the guy in the mortgage industry. Do I want to be the 13-year-old or do I want to be this guy who's committed to specific outcomes? So the way to get them laser focused is to have them create their own breakthrough initiative. So you want the CEO creating a breakthrough initiative and the employees create their own breakthrough initiative, which gives them lots of responsibility and accountability. It gives them collaboration because oftentimes they create a project that requires them to collaborate with their colleagues or even other departments. Um, so it creates a completely new environment, and people have something that you can say, now I'm proud of it. I created this. I did this.
Love it,
So
man.
they own it. That's like ownership.
Yeah.
So, and then there's this level of integrity that I really drive, where you honor your word as yourself. Your word is whole and complete. You say you're going to do X, you do it. If you're not going to do it, then you don't do it. If you're going to be late, then you inform the it required people immediately to let them know you won't be able to make that deadline.
Great. Yeah, just so practical.
Yes.
Yeah, I really, really like that and love how the accountability is built in, and the empowerment more so. Again, I really believe everybody has this greatness that resides inside them. Is can we get out of our own way, and let it come out. Uh,
Right.
and what you just described would do just that. But I can't believe the time is flying. We haven't even talked about your book. First of all, just congrats
Thank you.
on writing that. And again, listeners, here's why you can't find love. That's give some insight into the book so the listeners can make sure. I should know, but I don't. Yeah, I do remember seeing it now. Again, turnaroundip.com is where you can see more about the book, and I know it's on Amazon and everywhere else you can buy one. But talk about any part of that that you want.
Sure. Well, you can also go into Barnes and Noble and find it on the shelves, or on Barnes and Noble website, any electronic bookstore. So I'll give you two things, maybe three. The book is not written as Ted's thoughts, or TED Talk, and I am Ted, right? So uh, the book is very interactive and dynamic. There are five women uh, really kind of interviewing me, almost like a workshop. They're like, Ted, but you're a guy, and how could you say that about relationships? So it's very interactive with me and five women. The reader literally goes on a journey of transformation when they read the book. So that was the intent of the book. So that's why I also say it's like going through a workshop when you read it. Very interactive. Some people relate to some of the characters more than others. Now, here's the punchline of the book. The reason people can't find love is they're looking for it. And I can drill down on that.
Yeah. I mean, that's drilled down. I'm not even going to give you my two cents on it right now. But yeah, let's drill down on it.
Sure. I think I can do it in one sentence.
Okay.
Love does not create great relationships. Love is a byproduct of great relationships. So if you go in looking for love, you're actually not looking for a relationship. You're just looking for this euphoric feeling, but you're not looking for a relationship. So uh, if love doesn't create a great relationship, what does? So what does is having the relationship competency, and that includes a mindset. So if you're just going in and you're looking for someone to make you happy, you are not looking for a relationship. If you're going into it trying to avoid being alone, you are not looking for a relationship. Those are not elements that make a marriage or relationship of any kind work. But if you go looking for a job and you have every certification for project management, and you've done Six Sigma, and you've developed all these skills, and I'm a black belt in Six Sigma, and I'm the master of managing projects, you should hire me because I have all the skills and competencies. So for a relationship, why should I hire you? What skills and competencies have you developed to qualify you to know how to create a great relationship? So we're chasing love as opposed to chasing capacity and ability to create a great relationship where affinity and then love grows out is just a natural occurrence. But we're compatible. We have, so the way I value money management, the way I value mental and physical health, the way I value raising children, disciplining children, educating them, sex, how I manage conflict resolution. We're compatible in all those things. And most likely, those are not the things that will change as we get older. But if we base this on, I like punk music and you like punk music, I like going to Spain to Ibiza, you like going to Spain, I love vodka, You love vodka. Like those things will change over time. I like taking vacations to, pristine beaches, and we both like that. We like watching the same sport. I mean, I love sports, but I haven't watched television in 10 years, more than 10 years now. So, being with someone just on the basis of we both like sports, that wouldn't be sufficient. Like a big one is how do you manage conflict? So now we can take my methodology in disruptive leadership. One of the important pillars is being able to effectively manage yourself in the face of conflict. And that works in the workplace, and it works with your children, and it works with your spouse. The capacity to effectively manage yourself in the face of conflict.
It's powerful right there. And I'm guessing we're going to have to, the listeners, we're going to have to turn into readers and look to get all that insight. But I love taking so many notes, but I love the word competency.
Right.
The big, it's in so many professions, but in the nursing profession, there's so many competencies that you have to have to,
Right.
to provide a high level of care to a really sick patient,
Right.
and I like how you broke it down into relationships, because yeah, what are those competencies that obviously they're in your book, but that we need to be on the same page if we're seeking a relationship, and definitely a long-term one,
Right.
that are going to allow us to continue to enhance that and get better and better at those, and work through all the other changes of, all right, we don't like punk rock music anymore. Now we're in
Right. Right. Exactly.
roll, you know, we want to boogie down with something else. But yeah, no, uh, yeah, so much good stuff. Um, yeah, anything else that you want to share with that? And other than that, I hate to say it, but it's going to be time for the last question. I just want to be mindful of your time, and we're over an hour on this thing already, and it seems like it's been 5 minutes.
I guess we're having fun.
Yeah, yeah, no, this has been great. I know Pasha's really like me, getting checked up in the best possible way. But anything else that you want to share before we're done? Then I'm going to ask you one last question.
So you said something important about corporate culture, and uh, people look at culture as almost like, well, what they say, changing corporate culture is hard. There's another conversation that people just buy into. That's a hard thing to do. It's hard work, man. Uh, but if you created a culture, if you had corporate culture not as this afterthought that's hard to do, if you were very intentional about creating a culture where built into the organizational structure are mechanisms that allow for transformation as to something that you have to force and drive. Like it allows for you, create an environment. It's almost like now your culture is become your business model and everything else, or it's your operating system and everything functions on top of that.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense to me. Yeah, and I don't see how, a team, in Mike's case, a floor, in the hospital, if the culture is not right, it doesn't matter how talented, the players are, the staff is, the employees are. It doesn't matter. There's always going to be things that are going to get in the way and inhibit any
Right.
through any transformation. Yeah, it's just a matter of time. And so, yeah, I love that. And, yeah, it's just, I wish there was a way, or there is a way, and that's what you do. But for that to become more universal, especially
Right.
how this started in the educational system.
Exact. Yes.
Um,
Well said.
yeah, to get that, would love to be able to start there, and know how difficult it is for teachers at this time. But the students are struggling just like the teachers, and there is a better way to make that culture of learning and growth and transformation. Um,
Yes. So I'm going to quickly, you said something in my introduction that part of the reason I wrote the book is because we have a high divorce rate. It's over 50%. And when corporations are losing $300 billion in workplace productivity, it's because of divorce. So when you think of corporate social responsibility, some people think about the environment. You could transform corporate social responsibility in such a way that the corporation is developing people with the kind of breakthrough mindset that allows them to more effectively communicate, to be able to navigate through chaos and uncertainty, to more effectively manage themselves in the face of conflict. You can develop those capacities and competencies in the workplace and take them home, which now mitigates the divorce rate. And you can say corporate America transformed the culture of the United States. Corporate America by itself trained and developed people in such a way that divorce rate dropped. So people love Six Sigma, where we can have zero errors. So if we can intentionally go after a zero divorce rate because we are developing people in such a way they own these competencies, take them home. They're better at parenting, but they're more effective at spousing. I know that's not a word, but
right.
they're they're better at being a spouse or being in a relationship, and more importantly, having a better sense of who's compatible with them, which that by itself mitigates a divorce rate by marrying a compatible person as opposed to the person that just feels good and we like punk rock music. So
Man, what a beautiful thought, and what a great visual for us to get ready to depart ways of a zero divorce rate. Man, that would be the impact of cutting that down on just the kids, and
exactly.
it's just and just I mean, there's so many that would be a great podcast in itself, just talking about the impact that would have. But there's a quote from John Alston that I really like to end each episode with. And it's the only thing you take with you when you're gone is what you leave behind. And
Mm.
you're a young man, still dunking on people, still boogieing down, still doing your thing. And but now we're going to fast forward, 30, 40 years, and you're on your deathbed, and you're surrounded by the people that love you, and you're getting ready to take your last breath and getting ready to go see your parents and all the other people that have gone on before you. But what is it that you want to leave behind with everybody?
You can see the future. How'd you get me on my deathbed? Really? How did I get there? You put me there, huh? I didn't sign that contract.
Oh, I love this. All right. Just go
So
go with it.
I get what you're asking me though.
Uh,
What we just talked about, corporate transforming corporate social responsibility. And I'll try and say it in transforming the way corporations see employees as assets. And so once you know you have assets, you can increase the value of your assets. And we don't do that. We look at we see employees as liabilities. And you want to get rid of liabilities, so you lay people off. That's a whole different conversation that I've had with some former CEOs of Fortune 500s, and there's no solution right now.
mm, Powerful, man. And I love how it's you definitely talk about and you never said this, but reaching for the stars and really having big, bold goals. And I love how that's what you're striving for, to make just a huge impact, which will impact every last person, on the earth.
Yes.
So Pashito, get us out.
Yeah, well, Ted, thank you. I appreciate what you do, and most of all, just the way your mindset. Yeah, who says change is hard? Based on what? I love that. Yeah, and for those who are listening to the podcast, please get on YouTube and watch it. Ted is no nonsense. You look at him, little intimidating till he smiles, and we're like, all right, I know you're from Jersey and all that, but man, thank you so much. It was great. Thank you for making my Pasha a little nervous there for a sec. We saw the beads of sweat coming down. And appreciate what you're doing, not just for your clients, but really for the world, man. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here.
No, thanks for inviting me. This was a great conversation. I really, really enjoyed it. So thanks for having me here, guys.
All right, listeners. Yeah, Ted Santos again. Go to his site, turnaroundip.com. We didn't even get into Ted likes to write. We talked about his book, but he's got a lot of great articles that he's written that can really give a lot of good insight. And obviously, from listening to this episode, he just thinks in the best possible way, different. And I really think that has been a highlight for me to just tap back into that in myself. So thank you so much for that, Ted. And listeners, boom, baby, that just happened. We out.